Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to SimPlay Motorsport here for the final race of the week. It is pro time here at Catalunya. What a track this is. What a bit of racing we've had all week. Great sprint racing yesterday. Great hour-long race as well. It did sort of peter off towards the end, but that is a proper hour-long race, and the GT4s was special as always. None more so than that race 3 with 6 drivers, 6 different manufactured cars fighting for the final race win. It was a great race to watch. If you want to go back and see them, make sure you go back on the channel and have a look at an interview of his granddad and Rob Smith in the chat as well as the other 15, 16 people in there. If you are new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up as well as the bell to be notified. We are ready to go then here for Catalunya. It's rounds 13 and 14 of the season here in the pro season. Out of 24 rounds, obviously, we move to Valencia next week, the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, in what is going to be a fantastic race. So I'm joined in the box once again by Phil Raiden, my co-commentator. Phil, Catalunya, and the rain and gloomy skies have cleared. We've got a glorious day today.
Yeah, I want rain. After watching that race on GT4s, that race 1 where we had the nice mixed conditions, where's the rain gone? Come on.
We haven't actually had a full wet race.
We can't have a dry season.
We had a dry season in the winter, by the way. We've only had the 2 GT4 races where it's been mixed. One at Misano and one here.
Yeah, it's unheard of. Well, there's climate change for you, though. There's another story.
And surely, there's 3 tracks left on the calendar. COTA, I'm expecting a pretty dry COTA, if I'm going to be honest. You know, in Texas, should be pretty decent weather there. But it can rain. The 3 I'm expecting to be wet is Suzuka, Alton, Donny.
Yeah, and judging how rapid the temperature's about to drop over the weekend here in the UK.
I mean, you say over the weekend. I'm 45 minutes from Donny. It has dropped massively here these last 2 days. So, yeah, the weather's on the way.
Minutes from Snetterton, and same story. And that place, because it's open, you really feel the cold at Snetterton.
The one as well is, obviously, we know the floods that Valencia have really recently suffered, which have been quite a disaster over there. Obviously, the MotoGP, for example, has gone from Valencia this weekend, which is its season finale, to Catalunya itself, with the weather is looking great. I'm just looking, I've searched for the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, which is the weather in Valencia, and right now there is thunderstorms, which is just brilliant. You know, good rain today, a lot of rain tomorrow, and I guess what the weather's saying for next week.
We're about the same, which they don't need.
Sunshine is what the weather's saying next week.
They're so waterlogged from the flash floods they've had.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame that we can't have a flooded circuit to start with, and then with the sunshine it could try and possibly dry. That's not how it's going to work. Obviously, the weather looks like it's pretty clear at the moment. But yeah, what has happened in Valencia is obviously such a travesty, and it really out of nowhere. I can't remember how much rain they had in one go. It was really
they had a year's worth of rain in one day.
In one day, and it was really tragic. You see the images of the cars just being pushed like there's no tomorrow through these floods, wasn't there?
And people were trapped in them.
Yeah.
And
so our heart at SimPlay Motorsport goes out to all the victims of the floods in Valencia, and we wish the families and and everybody else our deepest condolences. Obviously, we go there next week, and it's maybe a topic that could be raised next week. Obviously, the weather looks decent for there, though, at the moment. Don't forget, we do have our endurance race at Bathurst this Saturday. If you want to get yourself involved in that, make sure you either try and DM me, Mathew Duffin, on the Discord. I've just gone on the weather. My days, right? I've just loaded AccuWeather up. Where it takes me is to Silverstone, because that's the one where I linked it, so I could just press on the button to get to it. Apparently there is snow around for this evening at Silverstone. Mostly cloudy, a little snow at times. So Silverstone's got snow on its way, right? So it's probably a good job we're not there. But at Bathurst at the moment, if you're wondering what the weather is for Bathurst, that's the wrong keyboard to be typing on.
Mount we can't have snow in this game.
Panorama. No, we can't, but it will obviously make it wet. We look at the Mount Panorama sign, which is where I think we took the weather from earlier this year. Saturday, 25% chance of rain. Sunday, 100% chance of rain. So let's hope that rain comes across a bit more. You know, and we have a bit of a Silverstone where it was great mixed conditions.
It's a 4-hour race. And if randomness is on, which it should be, it can still rain at 25%.
Yeah, massively so. Massively so. Good evening to Paul Williams as well in the chat. Evening all night. 3 of 3 of racing from Barcelona. Looking forward, sitting back, relaxing, no stress of racing. 4 trips around there was enough for me, says Paul Williams. Evening all. GT4 at Valencia is great, but GT3s are too big for the track. I see what you're saying there, Rob Smith. O'Reilly's in the chat. Gutted to be missing this one. Hoping for some close racing around here. O'Reilly will not be taking part for this race and possibly for the foreseeable future. He's had to send his wheel back for repairs. That is why he's missing from the grid. Same sentiments from all of us here at FBR in terms of the Valencia people as well. And Hypertech is there in the chat now. I was having the privilege of speaking to Hypertech and Clouden, Edward Cizans, before we came on air today. Clouden's family being from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who are in the football tonight. Managed to find that they've got a link on YouTube. So go on the St. Vincent. Also, you know, I know there's other football games on as well tonight. I don't know if that's why we have such a small grid, Phil, but it's a small grid that was separated with Fraser O'Brien, who we had the name spelt wrong last week. It's Brien. Fraser O'Brien topped that timing screen by 1/10 of a second from Overtaker and Dan. The field separated by 1.3. Gary Leach only did the 3 laps at the end, so it's still a very close field.
Yeah, well, it's going to punish you if you make a mistake now, because how close the field is, because that makes it even harder to overtake them.
As Dan there saying, we miss you, Kieran, in the chat. Obviously, Kieran was a massive part of this championship for this season. It's now, with Kieran missing this week, Philly obviously had the drop score of Bathurst at the start of the season of 0. This kind of makes it a 2-horse fight, doesn't it, between Dan and Skunky now? Yeah,
outside chance maybe Overtaker, but because he's missed 2 weeks.
I just noticed a glitch on the grid. So the grid order is now not right, and we do apologise to Overtaker for this.
He should be in front of
we're gonna run through the grid order now for you. Round 11 here at the Pro Reverse Grid race. It's meant to be O'Brien from Rasmussen. That is absolutely correct. Row 2 is then Ledger and Blackmore, with row 3 being Paolo and Gary Leach. Row 4 then of 7th and 8th is Pedro Vienna and Ben, with row 5 being Jamal Clouden and Mike Matthews. Row 6 is Matt Wright and Ian McGowan, but that is where the problem lies. Look, Overtaker was meant to be 11th on our reverse grid. That is what the grid order was set to. McGowan 13th, Harris 14th, Skunky 15th, Dan 16th. He's put Overtaker back in 15th place. Now, that is a little glitch due to the game, not due to us. I am just going to double check that everything was set accordingly. Overtaker as well tonight, Phil, having to serve that qualifying ban. So, you know, it's back of the grid in race 2, 15th place. He's possibly not going to mind that as much, not being in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, well, look how bit of a cluster race 1 the Pro-Am was in the middle of the pack. That got interesting, didn't it?
It did a little bit. I'm just going to go through the config file here, Phil. Obviously, 16 cars on the grid. Phil, pick as a winner.
I'm going to go for O'Brien, because he's got a...
Well,
the Ferrari looks quite good around here.
I've got a little fun fact to you about O'Brien for you. Yeah, default grid position for Overtaker is down as 11th, so not sure what has happened there. But a little fun fact for you. I was being told by Matt Wright, his teammate, yesterday. O'Brien used to be a Porsche Carrera Cup GB driver back in about 13, 14 years ago.
Which means I probably did see him racing at Snetton back then. Oh, God, I'll make myself feel old.
Good evening to Insert Coin, who misses tonight, as well as Paul Williams in the chat. Phil, I'm going to have to let you talk for a moment because I've got to put my microphone down. My arm is broke, so I'm now having to hold it on a little stand, but I'm having to hold it to my mouth, sort of old school Murray Walker style. So I'm going to have to let you talk a minute, just so I can type up the prediction.
Well, right, so they should be rounding into the final sector, coming to the horrible final chicane, which I despise with a passion. I'm glad they've got rid of it in Formula 1 and other major championships, or European Le Mans Series. So we've got the first 3 cars are Ferraris, which makes me very happy, being a Ferrari person, but I prefer the Bentley. Then we've got a couple of McLarens with Blackmore and Paolo. Gary Leach in the lone Porsche. That sounds like a song we can come up. And then Vienna in the lone BMW. Lone BMW.
Yeah, indeed he is, and really a Ferrari grid out there kind of this afternoon. O'Brien, Rasmussen, Ledger and Blackmore are the drivers you have to choose from. If you disagree with any of them, please let us know in the chat who you think will win. Dan Davis, so starting from the back, it's Fraser O'Brien, the Welshman, starting from the front. And for round 13, it is green and go here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It's a great start from O'Brien as Rasmussen took straight in behind them. Patrick Ledger, our sprint winner from last week, also there. Bit of a nudge on the back of O'Brien there from Rasmussen as they head down into turn 1. Vienna's looking up the inside of multiple cars. Gary, race winner in the GT4s, squeezes through the middle of Blackmore and Paolo there. That is an excellent move from the two-time champion. Now Paolo gets him back done though at turn 3. Rasmussen's also having a look at O'Brien through turn 3. Ledger's just watching on here as they all come towards turn 4, where Hamilton and Rosberg famously went off years ago. And Rasmussen tucks up the inside, leads this race from O'Brien with Patrick Ledger sitting in third. Gary Leach still having a look at Paolo. Paolo will have that inside line coming down in towards turn 5 now. And Gary just gets checked up a little bit by Patrick Ledger there and has to wait momentarily and gets the move done now. It's a great clean start to this race, Phil. Exactly what everybody would have wanted.
Yeah, a little bit of Robin, but Robin's racing, as they say in NASCAR. And was it? No, it was in Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder, yeah. Jamal Cloudon's moved his way up to 9th place ahead of Mike Matthews. Then it comes Matt Wright. Ben's the one who's dropped down the order a little bit. Dan and Harris are sat towards the back of the grid. There's Overtaker having a look up the inside of Matt Wright coming in towards the hairpin. And Skunky's having a look on the back of Dan, but no can do for anybody. And look at this in the backfield then. All these cars jostling for position, and they all stay as they were before they tried to make a few moves. Harris looking up the inside of Skunky now, and he's going to get that one done. So that's a good move there for Michael Harris. Obviously not to be confused with Michael in the Nissan from last night. I kept calling him Harris. Skunky gives Harris a real clout up the rear, and that's not going to help the championship protagonist in that race against Dan. But Rasmussen leads from O'Brien with Patrick Ledger. Then comes Gary Leach, Paolo, Edward Blackmore from Pedro Viana. Then it's Jamal Cloudon, Mike Matthews, Ben, Ian McGowan, Matt Wright. Overtaker, look at that grunt of the Ford Mustang coming down the straight, using all its horsepowers under the hood, and through up the inside he goes. Overtaker, nice move into turn 1. Runs a little deep though, and that's going to allow Matt Wright to try and come back at him in towards turn 3 here, and he does just nicely. And look at that door wide open, well and truly open for Dan Davis to try and squeeze his way up the inside. Cloudon's having a look on Pedro Viana. Dan can't get through. What about Jamal and Pedro then? Jamal is up the inside at turn 4. Great move.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw the Rosberg, but he once streamed from into that hairpin where he collided with Hamilton. He goes, I've got no memory of this.
Yeah, a little track guide it was, wasn't it, for a lap around this circuit? I have seen that.
Funny to
it
watch.
Was quite brilliant. You just see the awkwardness on his face as Dan Davis here then still stuck behind Overtaker at the moment, but his closest championship rival is now at the back of the pack. 17 minutes gone, and O'Brien starting to close that gap then on this of Rasmussen at the moment. Gary Leach, I wonder if he was praying to the driving gods about another race win or podium as Paolo sends one up the inside, collects Gary, runs himself a little wide. Gary's going to get back through, as does Ed Blackmore here. Jamal Cloudon now fancies a piece of the action, can't do so. They all get checked up a little bit there, and now Jamal Cloudon's going to try and hang it around the outside in the Mercedes, and the man gets through. He is cutting his way through the field.
Yeah, his finger must have healed a little bit better now. It's been a week. As Overtaker having a look on the inside of...
Oh, Mike's around. Ben's collected him. And Mike Matthews is stationary. Ben is now going to wait for Mike Matthews to come through, but Mike Matthews here is all getting congested, and this is what the chicane does, Phil, doesn't it? Is it really makes that traffic slow down. It tightens up, it narrows, it kind of takes the flow away from the track.
Yeah, well, imagine if they went straight through. That would help the Lexus no end with its hyperdrive it has on straight line speed.
So the front three... Sorry, Phil, carry on.
That chicane was put in originally for the bikes, for when they had MotoGP here.
Yeah. Because it was too dangerous, wasn't it? For the final 2 corners, it was too quick or something. They needed to slow them down a little bit, same as now like a Red Bull Ring where they've got the chicanes up the straight. Rasmussen's off! We were watching the leaders, but I don't see how he's gone off there. I was just looking at the timing screens, and Rasmussen is in the wall. Gary Leach is on the podium.
That looked like a wheel failure.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I'm going to wait till it's on the stream on my screen next to me. That's a little bit behind. Mike's now dropped behind with Ben, Skunky and Harris. Rasmussen still not got back going here, which would indicate to me a potential wheel failure as well. But that was very strange to see.
Oh. He's moving a little bit. Yeah, he's not moving again. So, what's he on? He's on PlayStation. So.
Oh yeah, just seen it on the stream. His car just seemed to speed up as well, as if the wheel got disconnected. Pit window is open, so Fraser O'Brien leads from Patrick Ledger. Then it's Gary Leach from Edward Blackmore. Jamal Clouden up to P5 with Paolo, then Pedro Viana, Ian McGowan, Matt Wright, overtaker with Dan Davis, Michael Harris, Skunky, Mike Matthews, Ben, Rasmussen now down the pack. We'll be thankful that the pit window is open. Overtaker comes through then. Dan and Harris also straight into the pits. I was just about to go on overtaker to see the difference between the Mustang and the Lexus here. And yeah, as Rob Smith, Rasmussen looked like he disconnected. It accelerated into the wall. Good evening to Peaceful Stepdad as well. But Gary Leach, a bit of a train here forming behind him, Phil, as he's got Blackmore and Clouden with also Paolo and Pedro Viana not a million miles away.
Well, Ledger won race 1 last week, didn't he, as well?
He did. Gary Leach won race 2 on Tuesday night in the GT4s. Completely different bit of machinery is in tonight, but he'll be hoping for, you know, another good outcome, another good race win. Jamal Clouden looking racy tonight. Not seen the Merc look this good all season.
No, well, I think the long stuff in the straight is helping the Merc a little bit there, because that's where you need the horse for ponies, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Dan's comes out of the pits in front of Harris still.
Yeah, so the 4 there are as they were. Rasmussen in the pits, that possibly could be a long one. Clouden just drops the wheel into the gravel. Out front, O'Brien is still ahead of Patrick Ledger, but Gary now defending from Blackmore. Blackmore looking around the outside of Gary Leach. You're not really going to get it done around the outside there. There's a hard corner to get around the outside, and this has now brought Clouden even closer to the back of Blackmore, and Gary needs Clouden to sort of give him a helping hand here and attack that McLaren.
He does, sort of fills in McLaren's rear view, if they've got a rear view on, that is.
So through the chicane they come now. The top two haven't pitted. Gary stays out, Blackmore stays out, Clouden is in, Paolo in, Vienna in as well, Matt Wright stays out. That is Overtaker who's into the pit. Skunky's also in, and in comes Ben. So the interesting one for me now then, Phil, is Dan was right up the rear wing of that Ford Mustang. What is he going to be doing now? Because he's only just coming through the hairpin here, but it is a long pit stop. Lost time, you lose 30%, I believe it was, of the lap around here in the pits. It is a big one to lose because it's such a long pit lane.
It is. That also depends where your pit box is as well.
Yeah.
The Overtaker's now in his. Dan has now come through the chicane. Overtaker's stop is done.
You lose 38 seconds in out for the perfect stop. So here comes Dan Davis. Overtaker's coming out the pit lane. Has the undercut worked around here? We're seeing Clouden's out. There's Paolo. There's Pedro Viana. There's Overtaker out the pits. Ian McGowan gets back ahead of Overtaker and retakes that spot. Here comes Dan Davis in the background. Undercut not so strong around here maybe, Phil, because Dan Davis stays where he was on Overtaker.
He does, yeah. Well, looking at these temperatures, I think in the race 2 we might have a tyre change.
Just because, yeah, the nature of the circuit, I completely agree. Me and Dan spoke about this last night, is this track alone hurts the tyres. Never mind then the temperature, and it's a lot hotter than last night.
Yeah, 27 degrees track temp, looking at the top of the doodah. I keep forgetting what I'm saying. It's great.
Gary Leach,
yeah.
Sorry, Phil.
I was then told to say about Gary is holding off on Blackmore.
He really is putting that Porsche exactly where it needs to be. The problem for Gary is that his speed down the straight line. It's all about that exit from the chicane, and Blackmore seems to get a good exit here. Is this going to help him? Patrick Ledger is in the pits. O'Brien then leading this race. Matt Wright stays out as well. Everybody else has pitted at the moment. Even that of Rasmussen, who is a lap down to everybody, sadly. And Blackmore just can't get on the back of Gary in time by the time they head in towards turn 1. And then down towards Jamal Clouden. Look, he's pulled away from Paolo, who's got Vienna and McGowan right there. Then Overtaker has got Dan and Skunky. Good stop from Skunky, by the way. He's jumped Harris and got right onto the rear end of Dan now.
Yeah, and Ledger's stop is done, and he's...
Oh, Vienna's had to cut the chicane. Just seen that one. Pedro Vienna had to miss the chicane. So McGowan was up the back of him. I don't know if there was any contact there, but Pedro Viana has lost out a bit to Paolo. Now let's see that speed of that Lexus coming down the straight. This is looking back from Overtaker's car on that towards Dan Davis. Dan goes to the outside line. Overtaker's defending on that inside line. Here they come in towards turn 1. These old rivals of SimPlay Motorsport. And Overtaker just has a little twitch there. Dan now has a twitch on the curb. And Taker manages to keep hold of his position. Evening to Gustav in the chat. Sadly, my friend, I don't know what that says because I only understand English, but I'm going to try and get that Google translated for me as soon as possible.
You would have thought they'd have an auto-translate on the chat, because with Google Translate and owning YouTube, Dan's on the inside of Overtaker.
Yeah, he is up at turn 4, down the inside he goes, and that could be the move done. Overtaker's going to have to be brave around this chicane and hold the inside line, outside line to maybe have the inside for the next part of it, and he does lay it on the brakes. That's going to put him deep though. Runs so deep, 2 wheels in the gravel. Dan still gives him the room. Now Skunky's through. Now here comes Harris. Taker's now looking up the inside of Skunky through the next part of the track. Gets it all up the curb. He gets it out of shape a little bit. Has to hold on to the wiggle. Now he's trying to defend. He can't come any left to get the slipstream of Dan and Skunky, because here comes Michael Harris. Round the outside goes Harris. Taker has to fight another day.
Yeah, he would have had a little bit of dirt on the tyres as well when he ran wide through the first chicane, which ain't as bad chicane as the second one, because that one's been there since the circuit was new.
Now, from what I can understand, oh, come on, Julius Rasmussen is what he's put in the chat. Thank you very much there, Gustav. So a new fan cheering on Rasmussen there. Let's go NRT, says Albuquerque. Blackmore is got ahead of Gary, so that's him through by some margin as well. Matt Wright has now done his pit stop. Paul Whitcomb, it seems early on the the early stop on the feature is stronger than the sprint and was beneficial for him last night. So that's one way maybe worth keeping our eyes on, Phil. But it's O'Brien from Blackmore from Gary Leach. They're your net top 3 as well, maybe with Patrick Ledger in there. But these 3 have got to pit. Patrick Ledger from Matt Wright. Matt Wright has tucked in just ahead of Dan Davis here. So that's put him into P9 at the moment. And Dan's still down in 10th. But what a trainer course. Say there's only 16 of them. But Rasmussen having his earlier incident, it's a good trainer course here.
Yeah, and Ledger's got brilliant space around him. He's got no one around him. He can concentrate on his line, and so he could put a good couple of laps to get the undercut in, because O'Brien's gone on for another lap. He has to pit next time round. Yeah,
he's going to have to. The time is going to be ticking down.
Blackmore's
Gary and
in.
Blackmore, they could possibly do one more lap as well, but Blackmore's in, like Phil's just said. Gary's going to continue on that extra lap. That could be absolutely key around this circuit. And so let's see what happens to Blackmore in terms of him and Ledger. He was a bit behind Ledger, but well in front of this fight of Matt Wright and Dan Davis at the moment. Dan looking to try and get past Matt Wright in towards a hairpin. Nothing happens there. So there's Ledger on his own. Cloudon's pulling away from Paolo, who's got McGowan ahead of Vienna. Then it's back to Matt Wright and Dan Davis. Look, you see Dan just looking to that outside line, maybe to try and have a look and get an exit, but can't do so. And now down towards the chicane, they all filter through again. Dan has got Skunky behind him. Dan's not going to want to let Skunky through here either.
Nope. No, this is where Dan's hyperdrive comes in. As soon as he goes into 6th, he'll probably be at 4th, 5th now, maybe.
Well, this is looking back from Matt Wright. Look at the closing speed there of the Lexus. Kieran O'Reilly, you're correct. The Lexus does look rapid round here. Look at the speed of the Lexus gaining on the straights. Dan pulls out to the inside as they all jump Edward Blackmore then. That's not going to bode well for Gary Leach. And Dan gets through on Matt Wright. He's ran a little deep through turn 1. That's going to allow Matt Wright back round the outside of turn 3. Is this now going to be what they did to Overtaker earlier? Right, trying up the inside. They've got Skunky just with them as well. Dan's trying to hold it strong around the outside. Matt Wright's still going to have the inside line for turn 4. Pedro's getting past out of Paolo just further up the road. Harris is now at the inside of Skunky. So the 2 championship protagonists are under attack here. Dan will surely have that inside line on Matt Wright into turn 5. This could open the door as well for Skunky to get through. No, it can't. Wright still holding it there though. Has Dan got that move done now? Not quite yet, because Wright is still on the outside line. And Matt Wright, is he going to try what Overtaker couldn't? He does. Doesn't end up as bad as Overtaker, but loses out to Dan. And now he's under pressure from Skunky.
Yeah, what a battle between these 4. 4, 5?
Oh, Overtaker's into Blackmore. He's around, and Harris as well went off into the gravel. I'm not sure there if that was Harris and Overtaker maybe making a bit of contact at the start.
Maybe, well. stop as well.
Yes.
He's only just stopped the car.
Gary and O'Brien are in. Here comes Patrick Ledger coming down the start straight. My strategy of forfeiting the turn off of repairs worked terribly last night, says Rob Spiff in the chat. Patrick Ledger, by the way, sprint race winner last week. He's through and in the lead of the race this week. Here comes Jamal Clouden. Rasmussen is the lap car in front. McGowan maybe for Gary. No, what about Paolo for Gary Leach? Gary's now off the limiter, gets back going. And, well, Blackmore's stop must have been longer than Gary's, PN, because Blackmore was ended up behind the fight of Dan and everybody, and Gary's through. Where's Dan Davis, though? He's tumbled down the order behind Blackmore.
He's now gone back in front of Blackmore, but he's
so
behind
is Skunky.
Mike. Have they come together when we jumped away to look at the pit stops?
Interesting. Fraser has pitted. Fraser pitting, says Ian Best. Fraser pitted earlier in this race. Fraser O'Brien, no, he's just came out of the pits, hasn't he? He's now behind Patrick Ledger. So what has happened to Skunky and Dan Davis here? That's going to be the interesting one to keep our eyes on. Fraser O'Brien then, the old Porsche Cup GB driver, trying to catch Patrick Ledger, one-time race winner here at SimPlay Motorsport. Clouden's up to the podium spots now, though, Phil. What a drive from the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, you know, I want to go through all my old programs now from SNET.
Yeah, well, why not? Why not?
Well, while you still get them. Literally,
yeah, exactly.
You can only get them for Tour Cars and British GT now. Everything else is a PDF. It's like, what's the fun in that?
Pedro Vienna's P5 with Paolo 6th, Gary Leach is 7th, Matt Wright from Michael Harris, then it's Mike Matthews ahead of Dan Davis, then Blackmore with Skunky looking around the outside of him. Then it's Ben, Overtaker and Rasmussen, who's obviously a lap down after, we think, a wheel disconnection for Rasmussen. Very uncharacteristic on how the car just went straight on so quickly. Harris putting pressure on Matt Wright here.
He is, and of course now, even with that probably a little bit of damage he got from the collision with, well, at least a polystyrene barrier, you know, the turn markers they have. Yep. And here comes the hyperdrive.
Down the start straight then. The Lexus of Michael Harris pulls out now on that of Matt Wright, and he's going to look up the inside in towards turn 1. And Michael Harris gets it stopped, manages to still go side by side. The bonus is if you're up that inside of 1, you can carry it through the outside of 2, and you're going to have that better line through turn 3.
Yeah, and then you've got turn... But then it switches for turn 4, so...
Yeah, it kind of 180s itself, doesn't it? And then all of a sudden you become on the back foot. But Harris at the moment has got himself fully ahead. Skunky's past Blackmore now. So Mike Matthews ahead of Dan Davis. Just wondering if the SimPlay Racing boys are going to be given the call to maybe switch drivers around here for that championship standings. Dan isn't exactly close at the minute, is he?
No, he's 2.5 seconds off the back of Mike. And Mike's catching right. Really, that's less than a second.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem for Dan Davis. Matt Wright is here. Look, and if we look on the rear wing of Matt Wright, there he is. There is Mike Matthews, just on the back of him, coming through this section of the circuit. On board with Matt Wright, there you see. Down the back straight, you see Harris just further up the road a little bit. Harris, by the way, already gaining on the back of Gary Leach in this one. This is going to be an interesting one to see. This is looking back from Gary Leach's Porsche on that Lexus. Let's see what happens down the start straight between these two. The gap out front is half a second, by the way. That's extended to 8 tenths. But back to Gary Leach. Let's take a look.
Oh, that's Rasmussen getting that well out of the way.
Well out the way. Like O'Reilly says, pro race is brutal. One mistake and that is your race done. And now look at the Porsche, one of the slower cars in a straight line. Here comes Harris, the lethal Lexus down the start line, pulls out, goes up the inside. Gary Leach can do nothing about it. He's passed him before they turn into the corner.
Yeah, and managed to take the race of line with the overspeed of the Lexus.
So
it's
Gary,
like a DRS open.
It is, isn't it? That Lexus is like pressing a DRS button. Gary drops down to P8 now in this race. Mike Matthews hasn't gained on Matt Wright, but Dan has gained on Mike Matthews. So you're just wondering, is that call going to come? Ben is gaining on the back of Edward Blackmore. They are for 13th and 14th place and further down the order. But O'Brien at the minute just gaining a little bit through sector 1 and has managed to pull a 10th back on the race leader.
Yeah. No, he's just held off on Wright, Gary did. In theory, we might get one more.
Yeah. Ooh, this is going to be pretty close.
It's got to be close, and they can't back off either.
There we go. Is that the call, by the way, from the SimPlay boys? No, Dan's gone wide into the gravel. He's not going to need that. He's racing his teammate pretty hard, and Dan ran wide into the gravel trap. Now he's going to have a look up the inside. Is Mike going to oblige this time? No, he's not. So SimPlay Racing having their own little battle on the track. Now Dan's got to deal with Skunky. We come around the final bend. There will be one more lap. That is pretty close, Phil. At 7 seconds as he crosses the line there. So that was pretty close. But now Mike and Dan having a fight. All of a sudden, Skunky's back on Dan. He's had a bit of a slide coming into the final couple of corners. Manages to keep it all together.
Yeah. And Rasmussen's sort of like staying out of the way behind him again. But what could have been for Rasmussen this race?
Yeah, it could have been his first race win if his. We do believe it was a wheel disconnection. Here comes
at least
Dan.
pedal.
Yeah, something went there because it sped up and just didn't turn. Dan's now going to look up at the inside of Mike, the overspeed of the Lexus. Dan went a little deep at turn 1 last time. I think he's got it right this time. Not perfect, but good enough to manage to get ahead of Mike and stay in front. And that's now Mike's job, is surely to not let Skunky through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at the moment, fastest lap's gone to O'Brien.
Yeah, he's drove well in this race so far. He's not going to get this race win, though. It doesn't look like. Patrick Ledger on for his second race win in 2 weeks. And Dan will be saying to Mike, you keep him behind you as much as you can, because that is his closest rival now. O'Reilly's not here. Mike getting very close to the rear of Dan. Could you imagine if there was contact made there?
Oh,
I would not like to be in that party chat, although I'd love to be a fly on the wall in it.
It'd be Mercedes 2016 all over again, wouldn't it? At Catalunya.
Before Dan wants to say it, it'd be like Matt Neal and Gordon Shedden at Alton Park.
Or any team, Webber and Vettel at Istanbul.
Harris is going past Paolo, up the inside into the hairpin. Here comes Harris, up the inside. That's a great move, but back to the race leaders now. Patrick Ledger comes through the final corner, and I tell you what, he won the first race last week. What a popular race win this is going to be again. It's a race win for Patrick Ledger. Fraser O'Brien, in only his second week of racing, will take a P2. Jamal Cloudin, that's a great podium for him. He hasn't had a great season so far, but he's on the podium here in the Mercedes. Great job for him. Ian McGowan, who wasn't sure if he was going to be racing earlier, eating his onion rings, P4. Pedro Biena, P5. Michael Harris will get P6 from Paolo. Gary Leach hangs on in there freight from Matt Wright, Dan Davis, Mike Matthews from Skunky. Ed Blackmore coming to the line. Rasmussen finished P16. Then it is Ben, and then Overtaker. We are still to await at the moment.
He's not crossed the line yet. Yes, he has. He just turned into the wall.
Oh, Overtaker's got huge damage here. That car...
and on a pad as well.
Yeah, that looks pretty undrivable. You're just seeing how that wants to go left, right, and he just wants to go left. Look at how difficult that looks.
Yeah, and on the pad as well. You can't hold it because you're on the thumbstick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
So sadly for Overtaker down in 15th place, he's going to have that qualifying ban coming up in that second race. We'll go for a quick break though, and race 2 will be right around the corner. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, to SimPlay Motorsport here for the first qualifying of the evening. Getting ready then for race 2. We're on board with Ben for a qualifying lap here. Here's the first man out on circuit. Will be the first man set his qualifying lap time. 3 manufacturers can now only win that manufacturers championship at this stage of the season, and that is Ferrari, who lead from Ginetta, who lead from BMW. What a story that is, that Ginetta are still in the hunt. Looks like it's probably going to go the way of Ferrari though in that one. Nissan are now outscoring Bentley due to Michael. I've done it again, due to Michael outscoring the one race that Graham has done. And isn't far behind that Honda either. But your Drivers' Championship at the moment looks like this. Dan Davis is leading the way on 461 points, 92 clear of O'Reilly, 95 clear of Skunky, with Michael Harris, that is correct, P4 at the moment. Ian McGowan is up into 5th with Matt Wright in 6th. Jamal Clouden moves up to 7th with Michael Eccles in 8th. Overtaker is in P9. Excuse me. Mike Matthews is up into 10th with Pedro Viana 11th. Emmanuel Machado down to 12th. Ben is up to 13th. Max Mulder up to 14th. Max Mulder down to 14th. Gary Leach up to 15th. With Paolo, Sebastian Wittrup, Patrick Lager, who's got another race win, moving up to 18th. Darren Yo's down in 19th place, Blackmore 20th, Sky Schundelmeyer's 21st, with Tim Ventic 22nd. Then it's Diz Rasmussen. Daniel, as we've had to lose Giggle for the rest of the season, he is work purposes due to around the Christmas period. Then it's Cosme, O'Brien, Beasley, Alex, and Verkrashen down in last. Your Constructors' Championship looks a little like this. SimPlay Racing lead 40 points clear of the Red Line Junkies. That has been cut shorter a little bit by the fact that McGowan finished ahead of both drivers and helped out massively. The Naval Racing team are in 3rd with Team SPR catching them. Obviously down to the one driver tonight, we know Darren Yo. Fat Blokes Bandits from Team FPR. BSP Racing ahead of BSP Esports with Dan Seb, Xbox Industries, and then the Greasy Bandits Racing. Ben comes to line to set the first flying lap of the session, and that goes the way of Skunky. So we've just watched Ben there doing invalid lap time, but Skunky's the man then who has put it on provisional pole at the moment. Let's pick up the 34 coming around the final parts of this lap. That is the Lexus and Michael Harris. Behind him is the 454 then, that of Julius Rasmussen. Harris there didn't set a lap time. He did actually, so he went second. Rasmussen up into P6. The 11 is coming to line now. That is Mike Matthews. He goes up into P3. Dan Davis not yet to the line. That is Pedro Viana. Then it will be Dan Davis. Here comes Pedro to the line. No lap time from him. What about Dan Davis? What can he set here before the 81 sets a lap time of Ben? Dan Davis goes 3rd in the standings at the moment. Here comes Paolo. He comes to the line and also does not set a lap time. Next up is Gary Leach to the line. Obviously overtaker Phil on that qualifying one.
Yep, yeah. We've got a long time serving for that qualifying ban because he hadn't unfortunately made the last 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks or maybe 3?
No, I think it was just last week that he'd not made. I think he picked the ban up, didn't he, the week before Snetterton?
Yeah, it's been a while. So, and I've lost my train of thought again. God, I'm good at this. Here comes Gary Leach to the line. No, where does he go? He goes up to P11.
Yeah, P11. A few changes probably made on Gary Leach's car. The number, I don't know what number that is. I can't quite see. It's the 140 now. That is Ben, who's emerged just in front of the 302.
You look like he might be valid now because his dot's not gone blue.
So let's keep an eye and see what Ben can do then through this next part of the lap. Round the final corner he comes, and down towards the start line he goes, puts it up into P6. What about the 47? That is Fraser O'Brien. Second place in race 1. He'll be looking for another good result here before the 28 of Blackmore. O'Brien to the line, moves up into P4. Blackmore now to the line. He doesn't improve. What about, it's not Skunky, it was McGowan down in 12th place to the line. He comes, he moves up into 8th then. We're going to wait for Mike Matthews. Harris has gone fastest by a 10th of a second from Skunky. Here comes Mike Matthews down to the line. What is he going to set? Will he improve? He goes up into P3. Good lap from him. The 46 of Pedro Viana on a valid lap time. It looks like Dan is not on a valid lap as Viana goes up into 13th. We go back to the 81 of Paolo.
He crosses the line now and goes up to P7.
Yeah, heck of a lap time there. Gary Leach is sat in a good position here. I mean, all the cars on track have got a decent gap in front of him, but Gary Leach, no one to worry about at all.
No, and Gary's just invalidated, throwing wide up the hairpin, which they also don't use in Formula 1 now. Or major car championships. Don't you just love when circuits change? Because it does happen.
Yeah, I mean, at times I look at Albert Park. I don't think that's changed for the better at all. I think that track's become worse since. There's obviously Gary invalidated.
This one's changed for the better.
Oh, Ben! Huge slide. He's bailed that lap. He had a huge slide coming through the right-hander. He's dropped back into the pit lane. Here comes Skunky now. Needs just under a tenth off. Not seen Chris in the chat yet. Good evening to Mathix87. Let's go Fraser O'Brien and Matt Wright. Legends, he says in the chat, as well as Benedict Varga. I think we should rebrand as Team Boatley or something like that for the next endurance season.
Good drive for Bentley. But we
Skunky goes pole. 2.5 tenths of a second. Skunky goes provisional pole. Jamal Crowden now moves up into P3 in the session. Who's the 28? That is Edward Blackmore. To the line they come. Goes P at 11. Just behind him is the 664. That is Ian McGowan to the line. Oh, he goes P3. Game on. Julius Rasmussen, if you ask me, Redline Junkies, SimPlay Racing, as Rasmussen goes 6. What a constructors fight we've got on our hands, Phil.
Yeah, between two Ferraris and a Ferrari and a Lexus. Confused? Yes.
Here comes Pedro Viana to the line, improves but stays P14. Dan Davis will be next up to the line. What's he going to do? 7 tenths! Yes, gets it by 400ths of a second. Paolo next up to the line. He improves but stays in P10. Next car on a valid lap is that of the 302. And that is Skunky once again. Dan Davis here just managing to eke out a bit of time there and put it on provisional pole.
Yeah, but that's no gap at all, really, is it?
No, that's running a little deep. It's running a little too much on the brakes, not getting the throttle down enough, or early enough, should I say?
In a gravel
yeah, it's so easy for Skunky to find that amount of time. That's not comfortable for Dan.
No, that's not comfortable yet. I mean, you took over the wrong side of that yellow curb, but Skunky's gone through. Yeah, that's gone then. That's an invalid lap. It's that easy.
Oh, and there you go. Look, Skunky just drops a wheel into the gravel at the final part of this lap.
As he comes around the final corner, he's wide then. He was all four wheels under AstroTurf from the helicopter cam. Does he do
Well, he
anything?
doesn't improve, no. So it's obviously invalidated his lap at some point. The 47 of Fraser O'Brien down in 9th place. He's coming to the line. It's only 8 tenths of a second. He goes up into 5th place. The next car to line is the 998 of Patrick Ledger. He's 7 tenths off the pole. He won in race 1. He now moves up into 5th place. Next car is the 46 of Pedro Viana. So drivers improving here, Phil.
Yeah, but look how close the times are again. It's just Pro is so close.
Yeah, it's incredibly close.
No improvement for Vienna. What about Dan? He's the car behind him.
No, Dan doesn't improve. Stays where he is. Pedro to the line. Paolo to the line. He goes into 7th place. 34th. The next one on that. That's Harris, and then it's Gary Leach just behind.
Harris looks very loose. That car looks really loose coming through. Yeah, he's backed out of the car. I think he was getting on close to the back of Rasmussen. Where's Gary? Gary's right at the back, isn't he? Here comes Leach.
Well, this is Harris here. Let's see what he can do. No improvement. Gary, 1.9 down.
1.7 down.
Yeah, not the improvement I think Gary's going to have wanted in that Porsche. I don't think we're going to see Gary in the Porsche next season.
No, I don't. I think he's finally going to have to tear himself away from the Porsche. After how many seasons?
Yeah, plenty of seasons. And he's bearing in mind 2-time champion in the Porsche, back on Project Cars 2. But here comes Skunky to the line now. Doesn't find that little bit of time he needed. 47. That is Fraser O'Brien who is coming to the line. What is he going to do in this lap? Puts himself P3 within a tenth. That is a fantastic lap at the moment. Next up is the 46 of Pedro Viana, and Dan Davis not far away.
No. Oh, Dan clunked the curb behind him.
Yeah, he's bailed. He's bailed. Here comes Pedro. Rounds the final corner now. What's he going to get from this? It's going to be absolutely crucial to see if Pedro can move up the order. 1.5 off it. Finds time, but just not enough there. Stays down in 14th place.
Well, again, you can find time, enough time, and just jump up about 10 positions.
Well, if he finds 0.3 of a second, you know, he's up one. All of a sudden, if he finds like, you know, half a second, 0.6, he's up to mid-pack.
If he finds a second, he's got to be what, P4? P4, P5, isn't he?
Yeah. So it's absolutely crucial around here to see what these guys can do. Here comes Matt Wright. He moves up to 7th place, finds a handful of places. Michael Harris is next. Needs 0.3 of a second. What's he going to get out of this? Finds nothing this time around. Mike Matthews next on a lap.
Where is Mike? 10th at the moment. I mean, them curbs are horrible as well. You hit them wrong and that's it. There's no Bentleys here because the Bentley love curbs.
Well, Mike Matthews stays P10. It's next up for the 302. That is Skunky. Does he find that little bit of time? No, he still finds nothing in his lap at the moment. Has he just not got it in the tank? Patrick Ledger next.
Or is that 400ths of a second just the straight line speed of the Lexus?
Yeah, potentially so. Potentially so.
Is it just the Lexus down the straights?
Well, I suppose we'll find out in a moment then as Patrick Ledger goes P6, 46 back up. That's Vienna. He had good race pace in that first race. I'm surprised to see him struggling as much as he is in qualifying.
Or maybe you rather race instead of qualifying.
Yeah, true.
I know what I'd rather do.
When he comes to the line, doesn't improve that time around. The 36 a Clouder now. Good race one for him, down in 9th place at the minute.
Yeah, it's a good race. It'll be buoyed confidence by that podium.
He will
and plus with the race win in GT4s as well.
Yeah.
So that really helps your confidence.
Full of confidence this week, hasn't he? Is Clouden Bean. To the line he comes now. Moves up one spot within half a second. Goes P8, the 135. That is Matt Wright to the line. He stays P7. The 34 of Michael Harris is now coming up to the line. Needs 0.3 of a second. What does he find? Nothing this time round. Gary Leach crosses the line. He was on an invalid lap. We then turn back to Mike Matthews, who was having a good race until he got caught up in an incident.
He was, yeah, and then he got overtaken by Dan in race one as well. But Mike's season's starting to come around, isn't it?
Yeah, he seems to be starting to gel again with that Ferrari, doesn't he? Had a good Snetterton bar his own mistake in race 2. And a decent start to Catalonia. It does seem like he's turning around. McGowan moves up to 4th now. 4 cars separated by just under a 10th and a half. Next car on a valid lap is Vienna. We'll see Paolo to the line. Ledger's then next up, but it's Vienna who's on a valid lap.
Plus with 16 cars, it's easier to see everyone.
It's just a bit more of a gap. Yeah, exactly. Just a bit more of a gap to see everybody.
I like when we got a full grid of 30. It's like, oh, who do you watch? Who do you show? Because there's so many drivers.
There's only 15 in qualifying at the moment. Here comes Vienna. We'll get one more lap. No improvement there. Dan Davis is also going to get one more lap in.
With 10 seconds on the clock.
Clouden's on an invalid lap, it says. So he's done. Because he is not going to be able to start another lap. Gary's done. Ben's done. There's a few cars in the pits. Clouden pulls into pit lane. So the next car is the 135 of Matt Wright. What can Matt Wright do here? Rounds the final corner. Down the start straight he comes now. Matt Wright to the line. Improves but stays 7th place. The 454. That is then Rasmussen. 7/10 off the pole. Does not improve. The 34 of Harris is invalidated. We turn our attention to Mike Matthews.
Oh, here come Mike round the final chicane. Just kissing the curb, and not the yellow one there, though.
Here comes Mike then, round the final corner, down the start straight, pulls that inside line. I think he's bailed, he's hit the brakes before. So, yeah, Mike was just teasing us there till the very end.
Paolo's bailed, so it's just McGowan and Dan.
And Ledger.
No, not McGowan. Dan's invalidated.
So Dan's invalidated. Ledger to the line. Unless Ledger's going to take 0.4 of a second, it will be a 7th pole position, which means Dan has taken pole in every race, bar Kyle Army. And Ledger's now done. So Dan Davis will take yet another pole position, and he has taken every pole apart from Kyle Army. That pole went the way of Skunky. So hats off to Dan Davis this season in qualifying. He has been a cut above the rest in it.
He has, and it's just the whole of Pro. It's just the whole of Pro has been fantastic.
And do you know what? That's testament to Dan as well, Phil, because with how close Pro has been this season, for Dan to take every pole bar one is such a testament to him.
Yeah, and it's just shown that he's having to raise his level to compete.
And I think this is what makes drivers better drivers, isn't it? Is I'm sure Dan will be the first one to tell you, that because of the level that he's having to race at now, he's had to up his game to this level.
Yeah, it's the same with any motorsport. If you've got that upper echelon of driver, like your Schumachers, like your Hamiltons, like your Rossies and MotoGP at the time, that forces you to get better.
Yeah.
You're chasing them, and when you finally beat them, or your career wanes and you
cut out the mistakes and nail each corner and really perfect everything. And really, as well, testament to the BOP. Let's not forget the BOP this season. Dan would not. I don't think Dan would be doing this in a Lexus without the BOP.
No, he'd probably still be in the Lambo, if anything. I reckon he'd stayed in the Lamborghini, wouldn't he?
I reckon the test for Dan, possibly. Gary's not got the best out of the Porsche. We've not seen Sky have his best season in the Porsche. Dan's a Porsche fan. Would that be do we think that the Porsche looks a handful? Do we think the Porsche is going to be more of a test for Dan than something like the Lexus if Dan was to stick around in next season?
Yeah, and well, all the other challenges, can you win Pro in the 650S, the McLaren? the old McLaren.
He's done it before, but that was on a game where, Project Cars 2 was a little different.
Yeah, but... Or Ferretia. The worst car in the game.
Hey, if Dan came and went, right, I'm going Jag, Retia or McLaren 650S, maybe even the old Audi, the Aston V12, the old Honda.
Or the old Bentley.
The old Bentley. Just any of the old cars from GT World Challenge 2018-19. Hey, there's a challenge for Dan for next season. That's if Dan does Pro. Obviously, Dan and myself end up discussing who's racing what next season. Obviously, myself would be on the Pro grid. Probably not doing as good a job as Dan, but obviously Dan might do the side series and I might be back on Pro. That's just the way it works. Obviously, with the lack of commentators on the channel, if you do want to get involved on the channel, there is a job application page. If you want your hand at commentary or stewarding or whatever it may be, make sure you fill out that and let us know. Also, if it's going to be tough, isn't it, to see next season? We'll be in that season where kind of the opposite to this. It'll start really cold, possibly wet and windy, moving into warmer, into that springtime.
Well, yeah, because we start again, mid-February roughly?
Probably mid-Jan. It just depends.
5 or 6 week break over Christmas, so maybe end of Jan, roughly.
Yeah.
No British tracks.
Hey, wait and see. Put it this way. Obviously, me and Dan mentioned last night, that as part of the Patreon bonus. By the way, if you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified. We want to get to as close to 1,000 subscribers as possible. Make sure you check out our fantastic sponsors in the description below. Dan Manchester, producers of vinyl graphics, laser engraved gifts, mugs, printed clothing and much more, including SimPlay Motorsport merchandise. Link to their Facebook page is in the description. And Audio Sport, manufacturer of VW Transporter, T4 audio solutions and styling products. Head over to www.audiosport.com. Also Facebook link in the description. If you want to be a part, join the Discord, whether that's racing or whatever it may be. Join the SimGrid as well. Sign-ups will be changing to the SimGrid next season. But Phil, British circuits, me and Dan spoke about last night. As a part of the Patreon pledge, one of your bonuses is you get to pick a track that's going to be on the calendar. Obviously, yourself and Machado picked Misano and Snetterton. The admins picked a circuit each, in which we had Bathurst, Donington, Alton Park and Suzuka.
I won't be picking Snetterton again, because I don't think you should pick the same
I'm not picking Donington again. I already know what I'm picking. Obviously, we get Robert Ramsell's going to be picking a circuit this season, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7 of the circuits out of 12 that are going to be picked by a driver. The wheel and aim will pick the final few.
Yeah, and not the Nordschleife, because the 20-minute race we have what?
Yeah,
like
there's
two
no
laps?
there's no Nordschleife for the regular GT3s. That'll be considered for the Endurance Championship, depending on what happens in the admin meeting and things to come. Though we are coming down the start straight. And it is green and go here for round 14 of the season. It looks a pretty equal start between the two championship protagonists here, Dan Davis and Skunky. Coming down the start straight, it is 4 wide at the back. We overtake of Vienna Blackmore and Gary Leach, really going hammer and tongue. Here comes Harris up the inside of Matt Wright. Has to go onto the marbles a little bit. Dan manages to keep in front of this, and everybody at the back. Overtaker got ahead of the 3, so great start, Overtaker.
Yeah, Mike's went a little bit backwards.
Yeah,
He's the car in front of Overtaker.
I don't know if Mike's gone backwards, only with 16 cars, or Overtaker went forwards there, because Mike qualified 10th, and Mike's running 11th, so he only lost 1 spot. Has a slide there, does Mike. Gary once again trying to thread the needle, playing ping-pong off of Vienna and Ben's car there, and Mike and Paolo going hammer and tongue while Overtaker waits in the background. Gary's going to try and tuck up underneath. Oh, nearly taps the rear of Overtaker there, but manages to get ahead of Ben and Pedro Vienna there then. We're watching Mike Matthews trying to come through at the moment on that of Paolo, and he wants to get up that order as quick as he possibly can. Michael Harris also on the move, looking on McGowan.
Yeah, Gary's front splitter must have been rubbing the rear diffuser of Overtaker's Ford.
Skunky's looking to the outside of Dan Davis in towards the hairpin as Harris is looking around the outside of McGowan. Skunky over the yellow sausage curbs, comes back on. Dan takes back that position. Fraser O'Brien's having a look. McGowan still ahead of Jamal Cloudham. Mike got ahead of Paolo at the hairpin, so Mike's moved up another spot.
Yeah, Mike must have had a bit of a slower getaway, or Overtaker just had a demon start.
I think Overtaker had a demon start, to be fair. I think he's had a really good one.
Yeah, and look at that, ladies and gentlemen, and sentient balls alike. That was a clean lap 1.
It was a very clean lap 1, Paul. It would be great to have you in the comms box, even if it's just a one-off. Ben, we'd love to also have you back in the comms box as Overtaker's looking up the inside of Paolo in towards turn 1. Mustang late on the brakes, up the inside. Thank you, Mama, for the carrots. Job done. I paused because Paolo looked like he was coming back at him.
I've lost my train of thought again. I'm just thinking, for some reason I'm thinking about I fancy a mince pie.
Okay.
I'm hungry, okay.
Skunky, O'Brien, McGowan, Harris, Cloudon, really close to the back of Dan.
But is Dan throwing the safest tyres, or...?
Possibly so. That's going to be an interesting sort of strategy tonight, isn't it, around this race?
Yeah, because this is like one of the warmest races we've had all season. Oh, that looked a little larboy coming out of that corner. I don't know their names. So
no, I don't know the names. Here comes, though, Skunky to the outside of Dan. Dan doing a great job at the minute to just hold Skunky up a little bit. Down the order. Oh, there's chaos. Ledger slow, Rasmussen slow. Matt Wright was wide. Mike Matthews has got past Rasmussen and Ledger. So has Overtaker there then. Gary Leach to the outside of Ben. Looks like Ben's going to hold on for that position. Good move from Ben there. Yep. Gary's not let this one go yet, though, to be fair.
They're still fighting.
That's great racing. That is great racing. Gary just turns in, gets a bit of a bump from Ben. Gary's now going to try and go around the outside of the final corner. Slots back in between him and Vienna. That's a great bit of racing there. We don't mind the little bump on the doors. That is fantastic stuff.
Yeah, this ain't Formula 1. Yeah, a little bit of rubbing's fine, because we're used to it in touring cars.
Indeed, but we are.
There was a lot of rubbing, sometimes, especially race 3s.
So back to the front. Dan from Skunky. They've broken away from O'Brien and McGowan a little bit. Harris has got past Cloudon. Or has Cloudon stayed behind Harris? Can't quite remember. But all clearly through at the minute, Phil. We're on to the second lap race. It's been a great race at the moment. And Mike attacking the back of Matt Wright now.
Yeah. I think there's more Cloudon keeping with Harris, to be fair. And this sort of broke away. And then you've got another group of cars until Rasmussen.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you on the cloud and comment. Just down to Rasmussen. He's ahead of Paolo, who's got Ben now hassling him. Skunky's not letting Dan go here, is he? Skunky is right with him.
He's right with him, and at this point of the circuit, Skunky's stronger.
Yeah.
But Dan's got his elbows out.
Dan knows where to place that car at the minute, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do, isn't he? And that's the bonus for Dan right now.
Dan is driving the widest Lexus in the world.
Champions drive as well, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah. So this pack are definitely slowly breaking away from the next pack led by Wright.
Yeah. Indeed, they are, and it's a great little battle this between Skunky and Dan. This is where Dan's able to stretch his legs just a little bit down this start straight. Then it's O'Brien, McGowan, Harris, Jamal Clouden. Big gap then back to Matt Wright with Mike and Overtaker. Patrick Ledger, your race one winner. Then it's Rasmussen, a little bit ahead of Paolo, Ben, Gary, Pedro and Blackmore down at the back of the pack, but 16 cars on the grid. A bit of a shorter grid tonight. Do you do any racing between championships, or do we go cold turkey? We sometimes put the odd fun event on, Rob Smith. It just purely depends on the sign-ups. We had a season where we had several fun events planned. The lack of sign-ups meant last season we decided to not do any. But there is a plan for an event on the 22nd of December, which is a Sunday, to do a Porsche Cup, Ferrari Challenge, Super Trofeo and BMW M2 race, 8 of each, first come, first serve in each car. To do a multi-class race, format unknown, track unknown at the moment. There's a bit of fun whether that's streamed or not, but there could be plans. If you'd like to see a fun event and we could guarantee the sign-ups, there could be one coming your way in that off-season. Obviously, dates are going to... The thing with the Christmas one is dates depend, because of Christmas and New Year. Dates depend on when the season starts and everything as to what we do. Obviously, the work we have to do in the background to get everything ready for the season, rule changes, admin meetings, get the sign-ups ready, get the server ready, get everything ready to go. This is why the endurance calendar will be released on the 1st of December, so that one will be ready to go with sign-ups before this season ends, so that for the endurance race, that will be good to go. But just watching Skunky and Dan there, Phil, Skunky's really putting Dan under pressure. I think the one thing that's saving Dan at the moment is this start straight. Yep,
the straight line, and McGowan's got where's
Fraser O'Brien's dropped down to 13th place. Yeah, so what has happened to him? He's behind Ben now. Let's just take a look at his car here. Looks okay. That is Gary and Pedro going side by side. Pedro Vienna up the inside of the Porsche. I think you might prefer the carrots.
Yeah, his car look okay. Has he ran wide somewhere?
I wonder if he's just had a moment. Yeah, had a moment somewhere. The problem, the pack this close, is that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, one little mistake and you just tumble down the order.
Indeed, you do. Right then.
You plumb up like a stone.
Here we go. Jamal Clouden trying to get on the back of Harris. Top two's broken away now that O'Brien's dropped down. McGowan is in third. Great, once again, for the Red Line Junkies.
Yeah, because Mike's... they're like right behind McGowan or in front of McGowan, is he? At this phase of the race.
7th isn't bad points. 7th will pick Mike up 30 points. Let's not forget that. But at the minute, that is 85 points for SimPlay Racing, 86 because of the fastest lap. Skunky and McGowan, though, they're going to be picking up 95, so that's another 9 points they've chipped away.
Yeah. 9 points, and what?
They're only... 9 points.
Skunky's lost the rear.
He's lost the rear. All on his own. He's clipped the wall. And there goes Harris. There goes Jamal Clouden. Skunky may have just got on at the right point. Now ends up cutting the chicane. And he's managed to get back on just ahead of Clouden. Well, that's going to topple it. It was only 41 points in it.
Clouden sideways.
Still with a few races left to go. Overtaker here in that big grunty Ford Mustang cannot get close to the back of Mike Matthews.
No. That's probably down to the bot, though, isn't it?
Yeah, possibly. So, also, just want to echo what Paul Williams says. There is also plenty of pre-season testing. The server will always be live. It changes each week. As well as, do look at FBR. who run alongside SimPlay, and we kind of work hand in hand with the FBR boys. They run events on a Sunday evening. At the minute, they're doing a Sunday shakedown, which runs alongside our championship. Overtaker, as I say that about Mike, he's got himself up the inside, looking into turn 4, and Overtaker up the inside he goes a little deep. Mike's going to try and tuck back underneath him, but that's probably going to work out in the favour of Overtaker because the way of turn 5. Now Mike has a look up the inside, but Overtaker had already slammed the door firmly shut.
But Mike's on the outside. Who's got the bigger cojones going into the chicane? Mike or Taker?
Well, Taker tried it around the outside a couple of laps ago. That was in the first race. Didn't work. Mike's now lost out and has now got Ledger and Rasmussen side by side fighting behind him. So Overtaker goes through. So Skunky loses places. Mike loses a place. So that constructors fight, you know, it's still interesting. Has now McGowan's looking up the. In fact, Harris has got past McGowan.
He has.
It is a Lexus 1-2 at the moment.
Has McGowan put a wheel wrong?
Probably somewhere. But yes, Rob Smith, FBR on a Sunday evening. They follow us at the minute. They're doing a Sunday shakedown. It's 2 20-minute sprint races of what we run in the week. It's like a bit of testing at the moment. But they've just done a Porsche BMW M2 series for 6 weeks. So keep your eyes out on them. This is why they're not doing anything on the 22nd on that Sunday. I've already spoke with Fat Bloke and said, look, if we do it this day, you know, your guys and our guys can do it, whether it's streamed or not. We can get something sorted there for that one. Here comes McGowan down the start straight, trying to look on the back of Harris. Can't do anything about it at the moment. And look who's behind Jamal Cloud, and Matt Wright all of a sudden came to the forefront.
Yeah, and Skunky and McGowan were switched places.
Yeah, so maybe for the championship there with Skunky and McGowan. Ledger and Rasmussen going hammer and tongue there, side by side through turn 3 at the moment. Ledger's gone a little wide onto the marbles. Wider and wider he goes. And Rasmussen through and up the inside. But this is allowing Paolo to come back at him.
It is, and I was just thinking, like, if we have like some fun races in the off season, we're going to need one that's crossplay. So that's Forza and Gran Turismo out because they're console exclusives.
Yeah, more than likely.
Oh, Harris had a wiggle into the chicane. That does not look like a very happy Lexus. Not going to lie.
And now Skunky's going to know what the back of the Lexus looks like, except this time it's red, black and white because he's now up behind Michael Harris. And down the back straight they come, where the DRS zone would open for the second time in F1. Skunky's looking up the inside of Michael Harris. Can't get through. He's just shown the nose. Harris has left the door open a little bit. Had to because Skunky was committed. And Skunky now up through past Harris, back into second place.
Yeah. I think is Harris's Lexus gone through that front engine rear wheel drive phase the cars go through?
I'm not too sure. We've seen it look loose in qualifying, haven't we? So it's hard to tell at the moment.
But look at Clouden with him.
Yeah, and Overtaker's in the background. He's going to be getting closer as well.
He is, but he hasn't dropped Mike. Mike's still within a couple of seconds of him.
Like you said in race 1, he just seems to, at the moment, be getting to grips with that car and seems to be getting, you know, on it a bit more.
Yeah, it's like the season with Mike a couple of seasons ago when he was in the Ferrari.
Yeah, massively. So I think Mike is sat in a good position here. I really do. I think he's sat at the forefront and is ready to try and get back to where he was a few seasons ago in that Ferrari.
Because you think what's different from the last time he drove a Ferrari is the BOP we have now. Because the last time we did it, we didn't run BOP, did we?
No, and that's probably what he's been learning and why the Ferrari hasn't sort of felt the same in this race. Back down to Jamal Clown though on the back of Ian McGowan. In fact, he's having a little look up the inside of McGowan. Doesn't get anything done there. Rasmussen is trying to stick with Mike. Like I say, Mike within 7/10 of Overtaker. Overtaker's just made a little mistake. Has a twitch on the rejoin at the chicane. Didn't go into the gravel, but just went over the AstroTurf on the curb. And that just seemed to unsettle Overtaker a little bit. Then down the back straight they come now. They skid pretty close together. Blackmore and Gary still with them in the background as well. And if you look at that, Dan's only just come into this final sector bit. Everybody else following him through. So it's not like massive from first to 16th.
No, it's not like we've had some seasons where someone just disappears and they're gone. And you never see them again.
Pit window's 12 minutes from opening. So that's, you know, another thing to keep him in the back of drivers' minds.
Yep. 12 minutes away. Okay, Skunky gained 0.2 of a second back that. in that final sector.
Yes, let's keep our eyes on that and see what Skunky can gain elsewhere as well. That's going to be an interesting one to keep our eyes on. But at the moment, Dan leads from Skunky from Michael Harris.
Yeah.
We're watching Mike try, kind of ebbing and flowing with Overtaker. Let's go back to Ian McGowan. He sort of sat in the middle of two cars as well, isn't he? He's there with Harris, but one mistake and he's all of a sudden in the clutches of Jamal Clouden.
Yeah, and same with Harris, to be honest. And right in far away, neither's Taker.
No, none of them are far away at all in this race at the moment. Don't forget, if you want to change tyres in this race, it will cost you 65 seconds. Track temp 27 degrees, so it's a lot warmer than last night, and this is possibly now where this puts Dan in such a good window.
Yeah, because he's not that comfortable. A bit of comfort without 4 seconds.
That he can just maybe look after his tyres, bring them home, and put them in a good window.
Yeah. I mean, 4.5, managing the gap, I reckon, with Dan.
And is this why then Skunky with damage is possibly catching the back of Dan Davis? This is on board with McGowan at the moment. Is this why Skunky's just possibly catching Dan at the moment? Is Dan just looking after them tyres a little better? This is back from Jamal.
Yeah, I reckon.
Oh, McGowan bouncing over the sausage curb through the chicane. Here comes Jamal Clouden then. Down towards the start straight he comes. The grunt of that Mercedes-Benz. Is it going to be enough to pull it alongside? It pulls out now and is having a look up the inside of that of McGowan. And all of a sudden Jamal Clouden in front, side by side, and possibly past McGowan in towards turn one. There you go. Jamal Clouden, that's a great move. You do feel though McGowan hit them sausage curbs at the chicane a little too hard. It unsettled the car and Clouden got the run.
Yeah, because the car was then unsettled, and Clouden got such a good run. Clouden's defending though in the Rosberg Hamilton corner.
Come back at him there, didn't he? Did McGowan on Clouden? Tell you what, the picture he put on Discord earlier, whatever lunch he had, he's in the gravel. Them onion rings looked absolutely majestic, looked nice and crispy on that picture. Matt Wright's now come to play. So is Overtaker at Mike. Rasmussen. Ledge is not far behind. It's really close back here. Gap down to 4 seconds for the lead as well.
Yeah, and Harris has been well and truly dropped by Skunky. As I was just checking. This is
pretty interesting at the moment. We're in an interesting stage of this race. Is Dan tyre saving? Just a few things happening in this race, Phil, that are just making it that little bit more interesting. Do you know what I mean? It's just getting to a position where it's like, who's doing what with what at the moment? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and of course we could go and look at everyone's streams, whoever's streaming, but we don't feel that's right. We say this every week because we look to be in mystery, or everyone in chat.
We like to find out the excitement as much as anybody. It was easy done in Project Cars back in the day. You could see the fuel and stuff. But it doesn't show you that information now if we press drive. It doesn't show us tyres. It doesn't show us fuel.
As Rasmussen's looking down the inside of Mike in the first corner.
This is in the background. You can see that happening. Rasmussen past Mike. Good move that. Ferrari v Ferrari with another Ferrari in the background. Then a pink Aston Martin. Gary and Blackmore having a... Go on.
Ben's within shot of this lot as well. It is...
Yeah. Then Paolo's only a second behind with Vienna and O'Brien. Then it's a bit of a drop back to Gary Leach and Edward Blackmore. Gary Leach just doesn't seem to have anything in that Porsche race.
No, I think he'd rather be in the Ginetta.
Oh, massively. Massively. He loves that thing. So he absolutely adores it.
We need to find something similar to the Ginetta that drives like it in the GT3s for Gary.
I just don't think that Porsche is good enough in GT3s. I just don't think it's good enough. And this is where, could Dan prove somebody wrong? Dan's a good driver. Could anybody prove us wrong? It doesn't just have to be Dan. Back to McGowan. Look at this train of cars now. Behind that of what is Harris, Clouden, McGowan, Matt Wright, Overtaker. Rasmussen's going to try and get on the Mike, then Ledger, then Ben. Paolo's now there with Vienna and O'Brien. And Gary's going to try and close back up to them with Ed Blackmore. The only two cars that's got a bit of comfort, Dan Davis and Skunky. And that is it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Skunky's slowly winding Dan in.
Yeah, unsure if Dan's currently at the minute on a tyre saving strategy. Is he looking to be able to have them tyres better at the end of the race, but without having to change them? That's going to be the interesting strategy for us, Phil, of who is doing what.
Of course, we find out in 5 minutes when the window opens.
We do.
And for more lots of pitting, if we do have a stream on Saturday, tune in on Saturday, because how many people are going to be in the wall at Bathurst?
4-hour Bathurst race on Saturday. At the moment, there's not enough cars that would feel that a 4-hour stream is going to be worthy of putting on. The race will still happen, so we'll try and get some personal streams posted on the Discord and stuff, as well as on the social media on Instagram.
Have your swear filters ready.
Yeah, round to turn 4 they come. Ledger on the back of Mike here. Look, Mike's got his own little train of cars. Mike's just dropping off a cliff here, it looks like.
Yeah, because now he's the cork in the bottle, isn't he?
Well, there's now a good gap to Rasmussen, who's going to get on the back of the other fight between Harris, Clouden, McGowan, Wright, Overtaker. Oh, I say Rasmussen he's just had a big wheel into the gravel. And then this is looking on board with Ben. And there we go, look. There's Mike. There's Ledger. And we just see him bend go to the outside. Mike's defended. He's gone deep. And Ben, he fancies a 2-for-1, makes a little bit of contact, lets Ledger have the place, but Ledger gets past Mike Matthews as well. And now Paolo's putting Ben under pressure through the right-hander. Paolo's dropped the rear. That's going to allow O'Brien. Oh, no, O'Brien's been turned around by Paolo.
Oh.
And now Gary's picked up 2 places.
So is Blackpool.
This is incredible. And I think Dan said it last week. I can't remember who I was speaking to last week. Might have been Dan, might have even been Mike. The pack is so tight at this tracks like this now that it's harder to overtake them, because you just don't have that overspeed. Overtaker's just gone beautifully up the inside of Matt Wright. 16th place he started. He's now 6th. Great race. 6th. Great opener to the race for him.
Yeah. But it's still a long way to go.
Massive way to go. Really, I'm going to ask you a question now, and again the chat can answer this one as well. Overtaker surprised me with that Mustang. I didn't think it was going to be an Overtaker kind of car. Are you surprised with how well he's doing with it?
Well, yeah, you think he's the only person in the Ford.
No.
I was still surprised he didn't go for the Bentley. He says he was very comfortable in the Bentley.
Yeah, he says that this feels like the Bentley, but a bit better. So, and obviously that's down to his driving style, obviously, but if he feels as comfortable in the, we saw how good he was in the Bentley. He pushed Ripper all the way back in the PS4 series in the Bentley, If he feels that comfortable in this Mustang, shame he's missed a couple of weeks, qualifying ban tonight. He's not, at times he's not had his best races, but obviously this car is still relatively new. He could still be learning this car.
Well, yeah, I think that's the newest car in the game. Hopefully we'll get one more update with some new cars next year, including the Corvette. And
got to be Corvette. Got to be the Evo.
The Evo
they're the only 2 that's out at the moment.
Evo of the BMW M4 as well, because that's
coming
tested
next year. Yep, that's coming. The Lexus is for 26, so I don't think we'd get that.
I don't think we're going to get that, because I think the Kunos has said there's one more major update left for ACC.
A few more tracks.
Few more tracks, like Manicure.
Manicure. I'd even take Jeddah, to be fair. It's something different. Whether we'd run it, I'd take it.
It might be better in
it might be better in GTs. It might be better in GTs and F1.
Because in the F1 cars, it's...
Give us an Asia GT pack with Fuji, Sugo, Malaysia,
I love Fuji.
Okayama. Give us a couple more American tracks. We've got all the British ones. They don't race at Thruxton or Croft and stuff like that, so we can't go. We won't get them.
There's reasons they don't race there, because there's not enough garages and the circuits aren't the standard.
Is SimPlay going over to AC Evo? Well, there's no news for it for console yet.
No,
at the minute it is just PC. So it's going to be as and when, Chris. Evening, by the way. I think that's the first time we've seen you in the chat. It's going to be as and when it comes for console, and I suppose it's going to be what it's like. What the broadcasting capabilities are going to be, and what the game is going to be.
So we can still have Xbox and PlayStation.
It's just going to be basically see what it could be. But at the minute, there's no talk to change what game we go in. The only rumour around is potentially a bit on PC, but that is it. And obviously,
Which I won't do.
Obviously, more of the endurance series coming next year. More races, more action. Yeah, looking forward to that one.
So we need stewards, we need commentators. Because it's got to be
I've not heard from Jamie Brazier in months, and he's just popped up with Macau. No. Although the GTs do race there, so I'd understand if it got added.
Oh, no. Have a pile up there, that's it.
You don't hear from Jamie. I've not heard from Jamie since Silverstone. Maybe even Brands. He comes up and pops up and says Macau. Like that, we had this discussion last night on the stream. Pit window opens then for the cars out there on the circuit. No real fights happening at the moment. I say that. Pedro Vienna's now gone up the inside of Mike. Mike's going backwards, Phil.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to that Ferrari.
It's gone. It's done at the minute. Mike seems like that car is just finished.
Yeah. Is he in map 8?
Who would do such a thing at Catalonia in map 8?
I don't know, Matt. Who would do such a thing and put it in map 8?
Not a clue. Don't forget, ACC was 2 years on PC before console. Exactly that, Paul Williams. The thing we've got to remember as well is if AC Evo comes out, what GT3s will it have? How many? What tracks will it have?
What other race cars?
Well, this is my point I'm about to make. We are predominantly a GT3 league, so everything else has been on the side, hasn't it? F1, other side series have been done on the side. So,
and there's a reason we don't do the F1 games no more, because they are abysmal.
They are. But at the same time, we are looking at AC Evo as being for our side series stuff over this. Insert Coin wants a Porsche Cup, ditch the GT4s. That is potential, Obviously, we always try to change and rotate our side series. Obviously, we tried GT2s last year. We didn't get the sign-ups. Porsche Cups could be coming. Good evening to Chris. Ben is not. He's been in Ben's stream. He's not feeling too good, and he's struggling in the Aston. He's hating it. Well, hopefully Ben will obviously carry on to the end of the season. It's great to see Ben still pushing out there and get back in that McLaren as drivers now enter into the pit lane. Gap out front 1.6 seconds. So Skunky's coming on Dan here.
He is, yeah, and there's a lot of, well, because there's so few cars, quite a few are now in the pits. Matt Wright stops done, but even before Mike's stationary. Ben's now stationary.
Not sure what's happening here, because we've only got an extra 8 minutes compared to race 1, and Mike seemed to end race 1 pretty strong, and is 8 minutes after the length of race 1, and just doesn't look strong here.
No, I think the servers are still up. We could do a side season on F1 2020.
Not crossplay though, is it? Mike's got no grip. So I'm wondering then, is Mike changing tyres?
Yeah. We said I said something's wrong with that Ferrari, did I?
Yeah, he was right. I think Mike is changing tyres. He's only just finished his stop. I think Paolo may have as well, because they are way behind.
Right. Skunky's right with Dan.
Yeah, he is. We're watching this at the moment. McGowan's with Clouden as well, and Blackmore's still with Gary Leach. I think Mike has changed tyres here. Just seeing if anybody's diving into the pit lane. McGowan is. Overtaker isn't. Rasmussen isn't. What about Vienna? Don't forget, if you like what you see here, hit that thumbs up button, hit the bell to be notified, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Endurance race coming this weekend. Obviously, we're hoping for a few more cars on the grid. That'll be sorted over the weekend, though, over tomorrow. Because tomorrow will be the cut-off time, really. Earlier race start time. If you want to get involved in the endurance race, message Mathew Duffin on Discord. We could get that one sorted out for you. 4 hours of Bathurst. You can do it solo. You can do a driver swap. If you are solo, there are certain permutations and things you have to do. And then by the end of the month, by the 1st of December, I do believe I've decided that the calendar will be out. To start your festive month, if you haven't already started it, if you've tuned into my streams recently, the Christmas tree is up behind me. Got the lights on right now. So to start your festive month of December, if that's when you want to start it, the endurance calendar will drop. What greater gift could you want?
I can think of many greater gifts and...
None better than that, though.
I can think of better.
No, none better than that one. Moving on.
Circuit to the South added into ACC. Yes, please.
Which one?
The full circuit. The full Le Mans.
Oh, Le Mans. Right, okay, thank you. Just say the Le Mans circuit. If we don't get
Well,
Porsche Cup champions
two.
next season,
There's
I'll go on
two.
strike in the GT3 Championship, and we'll ride with the Retia. We've decided we're not doing the Porsche Cup Championship because Machado's running the Retia, so we're going to see that one instead. So the Porsche Cup Championship is no longer happening. That's off the table. I will speak with Dan after. How does the driver swap work on console? It's never too early. It's never too early. Plus, I only have my kids every other week, and I've got a busy schedule with weekends at work with personal work stuff, commentary at the studio. So got it up now before that. Jamie Brazier, you probably started your Christmas time in July. Jamie, it's never ended. Driver swap on console, Chris. So if they want to do the 4 hours as a solo driver, the time to swap will actually be the same as a driver swap. You sign up with a teammate, and the way it works is we register them teams as we'd register them on the entry list, and when they come into the pits, they just select the name. If Ben's interested, drop me a message, and I can send you a link on how the driver swap will work, or we can have a proper chat. I think you added me on Facebook today, so feel free to send voice notes, whatever it needs to be, and we can have a chat about it. I'd love Le Mans on here. It would be awesome. It would be so good. Do you know the best one, though, which World Endurance went to today that would be so good on here? Interlagos. Get that one on the game.
Yeah, because I was listening to the conversation, and I'd say Le Mans any day of the week.
Yeah. If you had to take I agree with Dan. We've got Nordschleife. Get Le Mans. As
trouble is, though, they need the World Challenge to go there.
That's the problem, isn't it? That's why we got the Nordschleife. But if you was to take any normal circuit, by normal, I don't mean something that's for a one-off special event, one that could host many races, whether it's F1, GTs, touring cars, motorbikes, whatever it could be. What would you pick?
Istanbul.
Yeah, Dan said the same. Great shout. Good shout. Sepang or Interlagos for me.
Sepang, yeah, Sepang's a good circuit.
Fuji,
even the old Indian F1 circuit.
100%. The Indian Grand Prix was a fantastic circuit. I was looking on the GT website last night at what tracks are coming next season, what tracks are being run. I think it's 2 weeks till we get the race at Jeddah in GT World Challenge. So you've got Jeddah and Manicourt and Hockenheim that GT World Challenge went to. You look at the American GT, we've got Sebring, we've got Sonoma, Virginia.
Sebring.
You look at the Australian GT, we've got Barab, we've got Barbara or whatever it was called. We've got the old Adelaide track, stuff like that. You then look at the American GT with, like I say, Sonoma, Sebring. You look at other circuits with the Asia Series with Fuji, Sugo, Okayama, Chang in Thailand, Shanghai International, the Chinese F1. That'd be a good one, as well as Sepang.
Sepang is a good shout as well. That was one of the better Tilke circuits. I think.
And you think of the weather around some of these tracks as well, by the way.
Tropical storms
here. All of a sudden, it's 1 minute the race is sunshine, the next minute it's a yellow thundercloud on your screen.
And you're sitting. Oh wait, we're not Formula One.
Mm-hmm. We'd carry on racing. It's not red flag the same there. Manicourt, I agree. Best French circuit ever. Dan has got Skunky right up behind him here. We just flicked to Ben and Edward Blackmore. They're pretty close. Matt Wright's close. So back of McGowan! They've made contact for a second race in a row. They've made contact with each other. And Dan is now going to pit. Skunky has waited and he's going to carry on. And Harris here, he chooses to box and has just been brought back into this race a little bit. But again, the two championship protagonists have been spun around.
Yeah, and we've got it on stream. This time, Taker's in the pits. In his Darth Vader-esque Mustang. Yeah, it's got to be how we come up with that livery again.
Yeah, must be. No rain this season yet. Pro seems to be getting the best weather. Pro does seem to be getting the best. Pro-Am seems to be a bit cloudy. And the two GT4 races have had, mixed conditions in one race at Misano and one race this week at Barcelona. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Look, we've got Suzuka to come. We've got Alton Park and Donington Park to come. Every time I'm at Donny, it seems to rain. So, it'll be sod's law that there'll be, 10 degrees.